Thank you very much for staying with us. We're moving now to some politics and governance issues across the country. There has been, we hear that there's a bill currently at the National Assembly which proposes a return to the regional style of government. And there are, of course, reactions from different quarters, including indigenes of Lagos, some of them who met over the weekend to express their displeasure and their dissatisfaction, and that indeed Lagos would never be a part of that arrangement. So we are looking at what the issues are in terms of the need to, the call to go back to that style of government, and why Lagos, for example, thinks that that's not in any way benefit the state, its citizens, and of course residents of Lagos. We're being joined now virtually by Olayinka Oyeniji, who would help make some sense. He's the founder, the Olu of Lagos Foundation. Mr. Oyeniji, good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you as well for having me.
All right.
Okay, so a lot of people that didn't really understand, they thought that the Western region had Lagos actively involved, which, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it was. But then it was really part of this. But there's some people, I can see a particular group that really says that Lagos State had always been part of what it was. Let me quote, generally, and since Lagos and its environs became a colony, we have always maintained that we preferred to be a standalone status and not be part of any Western region. There's a particular place where I'm trying to get a particular thing where the person describes that the brief balkanization of the state to be part of Western region was an aberration. Now, this is the bill according to reports before the National Assembly. No public hearing yet, I want to believe, because I live in a local government where I have my ears to the ground, and if any such hearing would be taking place, I would be one of the first set of people to know. What's your take on this particular one? Is it part of what some would say people are calling for restructuring? So we're calling for restructuring. Why are you worried about possibility of going back to some level of regionalism?
All right, so as it is at this moment, there's a lot of speculation going on. I'm not even certain that it's a bill before the National Assembly. It may be part of the memoranda submitted for the amendment of the Constitution. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria operates as of today as the 1999 Constitution. And so whatever speculations outside of that law are mere speculations and they go to no issue. However, let's take it on the face value that someone has submitted a memorandum, okay, for a bill to amend the Constitution to go back to parliamentary system. We know the rigor of amending the Constitution. It has to go around the 36 states, and then the state houses of assembly have to approve any amendment to the Constitution with respect to restructuring, as we call it. So I don't think that there's a possibility that the status of Lagos will be the question of one bill. I think that the status of Nigeria as a whole, as an entity, will be discussed at that level. Do we want to go back to regionalism or a parliamentary system? Now, of course, we've got freedom of expression. And so we would have associations who would say that, or groups of persons who would say they don't think that they are favorably disposed to having the status of the entire country amended for Lagos to be part of the parliamentary system. And I think that all of us will have our say at that point. The question may then be that to what essence are we going to say we are going to regionalism or parliamentary system? What is that structure supposed to be like? So Lagos cannot stand on its own. If we are going to have 6 geopolitical zones, so be it, and then every state will be rightly subsumed there. There will be a level of control of resources at that level. It's not just saying the country is now being divided into 6 components, federating components. That's not all that there is to it. There will be the question of resource control. There will be the question of the exclusive legislative list of the Constitution and residual list. Is the federal government going to still continue to control resources such as land? We'll be talking about the Land Use Act of 1978 and be very direct with respect to how we appropriate powers between the governor and the president, or maybe we then have a prime minister and the premier for the colony. So it is early days. We can discuss the viability of this instance, but it's early days to determine that Lagos should stand alone or Lagos should be part of a region. All of these issues will be discussed, inclusive of this state independent electoral commission? Will the federal government still be organizing elections through INEC and governors have the power, or would it be a regional electoral body? I dare say that we'll only be speculating at this time. It's still early days.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yenichi. Let me also take you back to the conversation around the style of government. For example, the presidential system that we currently run, copying from the US system, although some people have argued that ours is a modified presidential system of government. People have said that it's particularly expensive, in terms of the structure and how you have, the size of those in office is usually huge, and that takes a large chunk of the resources of the country. What kinds of legislative changes would you recommend to make, to cut down the cost of governance, and then so that development can trickle down?
Thank you for this excellent question, one that we ventilate over a lot. Personally, I do not think that the presidential system of government is expensive. What I think is that the people behind it are corrupt, and it's the mindset of the people. There's absolutely nothing wrong in modifying our presidential system of government to be in total with what we have in the United States. It just means that we are going to further decentralize it. Yes, we are not practicing presidential system of government as it should be. The cost of governance is not for the system, it's for the individuals behind the system. So even if we have regions, we will still end up spending so much money, and rightly so. Resources will get to the tier of government. The local government is not an arm of government, it's a tier of government, but it's been rendered moribund. So that has absolutely nothing to do with the style of government we run. So for example, like the president has been agitating, and we are happy to hear this, that supposedly he would like to ensure that there is some viability at the level of the local government. Now, those resources that have been amassed at the state level can then go directly to the local councils. So it's not about how expensive it is about the mindset of the people who are operating it, because we have resources allocated to local governments, but state governors sit on them, and the state governors also oppose that these local councils be strengthened. That has nothing to do with the cost of governance. For example, at the state level, we still have so many parastatals, we have so many political appointees, and yet, so I'll put one instance in front of you that I'm thinking about as a resident of Lagos State. Now, the Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway, I'm told, is already broken down. Okay, we have APC as a government at the center, we have APC as a government at the state, and also at the local council. Are you saying to me that there's no possibility for the Federal Minister of Works and the Commissioner for Works in Lagos State to come together and say, well, let's put together funds, which is what the essence of their joint allocation committee is? What specific projects are we pulling funds for? Yeah, that road is broken down totally. That has absolutely nothing to do with the cost of governance at the center. What it just means is that we must have responsible individuals occupying strengthened institutions to ensure that the funds are not allocated in a lopsided manner. And that has absolutely nothing to do with whether it's a presidential system that is expensive or that the regional government will be cheaper, even at the level of the region. Because we practiced it before, we had Udo, a group of companies and all of that. We will still need to pump funds into those to strengthen them at the level of the region. You can manage resources without being overtly overwhelmed by the type of government you run. Can we decide that we want to cut down costs allocated to things like Hajj? I have gone to court before to challenge that system, to say Nigeria is a secular state. We cannot be putting public funds into religious purposes, whether you are going to Jerusalem or you are going to Saudi Arabia. And the judge, who is now retired, of the Federal High Court, said to me that I do not have any local stand. In fact, he said, what's my business? Those were his exact words. What's my business about it? Now the country is cringing under the weight of debt burden. So that has nothing to do with presidential system. We must shoo away things that siphon resources in our nation, not because of the style of government, but because of the type of individuals we have occupying weak institutions.
Thank you so much. Let's bring it down to what we're experiencing today. As a student of history, you want to go back to see, look back at what the 6 geopolitical zones were like and what they were able to bring to the center once all of them were able to be self-sufficient in what they were best at, and that is not what we have today. if you want to consider what's going on at the moment, with the call possibly, this may start to fly around constituencies, and constituents may have to decide or advise their representatives on what to do if this comes to the fore. If you had your way, would you really imagine that Nigeria will go back, not necessarily with a big fanfare, to some level of regional administration that could foster some, for the proponents of this particular one, development and growth, where regions start to compete in a very healthy manner, and which could help to reflect the economy? Do you belong to that school of thought?
Well, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to come with hard evidence. So number one, Nigeria was never 6 geopolitical zones. That was some construct of the democratic era that we started in 1999. We were never 6 geopolitical zones. There are still those in the middle belt today that we don't reckon with, that are suffering from different environmental factors and man-made evil that's going on there. Now, back to your question, as it is. Now, so we have a regional government or a regional administration in the southwest Nigeria. Who will occupy it? The same people who are in government today. Nobody asked the citizens questions. They changed the national anthem a week or two ago. Did anybody ask us? But it was done validly. I am not going to court to challenge that. That was a valid process. Whether you think that they had a public hearing or not, I don't even think that they are mandated to have a public hearing. I don't know what section of the Constitution says that you must have a public hearing before a law is passed. But we don't have, there's a disconnect between citizens and their representatives in the various arms of government. There's a total disconnect. I can't see, I've not seen any time in recent times that the representative of my local council or of my federal constituency has addressed us as regards anything going on in the National Assembly. I don't think you have received an invitation to say that you should make inputs into what your collective residential association is saying about the constitutional amendment. So this is what has happened. We have had a semblance of regional government. I mean, we have APC in the southwest, possibly with the exclusion of PDP in Oyo State. But even at that, they still come together for different reasons. They come together to promote tourism. They come together to promote economy, so to speak. We even have the Governors Forum. We already have some semblance of regional administration. As it is today, we have the Northern Governors Forum. So it's not, let nobody be deceived. Regional government or regional institutions would not improve Nigeria, would not develop Nigeria. We already have every development commission. We have North-West Development Commission, Northeast Development Commission, Niger Delta Development I think it's only the Southwest that we don't have a development commission for already. Those are the institutions by which funds are preferred and filtered away from our national commonwealth. That's where the problem lies. These same individuals, you look at their profile. The present Senate president has been commissioner, he's been governor, he's been senator, now he's Senate president. But what development have we had in his constituency? What development of note have we had in the South-South? That has nothing to do whether it's regional government, parliamentary, or whatever name you call it. What we need is a people to understand, what are my own needs? Some parts of Yoruba, the same Lagos State will not be part of a regional government. We were hearing Oduduwa Nation all around the Southwest, and then of course we had Sunday who's been released, whereas Nnamdi Kanu is still in prison, and then of course thankfully Sowore was released recently. Now all we are saying is the same set of people who will run the Southwest Nigeria. The present president held sway in the Southwest before becoming president. Who will be the power brokers in the Southwest? How will it affect those who are on the streets? How will it affect the market women? How do we develop our councils as of today? I am a resident of Alimosho local government that has a population of 9 to 11 million people. There is the dearth of infrastructure in Alimosho. All the roads are broken down. Yet that's where all the votes come from. So if we have a regional government with maybe the present governor and the present GAC and other leaders of Lagos hold sway because they have the resources, there's something we call state capture. They already have that. In the north, the children are out of school. It's still the same people. In Kano, we have 2 emirs. These are the people who will still make the decisions when we devolve into parliamentary system. These people either have to have a reset or we will have to leave the system for us to make sense of any good governance in Nigeria.
All right, thank you very much. Just before we go, let me ask you this. I know that before this issue, they talk about regionalism and the possibility of certain people trying to promote, that agenda. Lagos State has always requested for what they refer to as a special status for Lagos, because they believe that Lagos is critical and central, to Nigeria in terms of the gateway, being the gateway and being one of the topmost cities in Africa and even in the world. Do you think that this request is selfish? That's one. Do you also think that this request would in any way help to develop Lagos and portray Nigeria as a center of excellence in terms of Lagos being the hub?
I promoted something before that people have shouted down. I'm going to say it again today just to test what you think and what the entire public thinks about this. Do you know one of the benefits that Lagos has enjoyed is because at some point it was federal capital territory. It's not only because of the natural resources that it has. Cross River, I investigated over the last week. Cross River has as much resources, as much natural resources as Lagos has, if not more. But all of these states, including Abuja Federal Capital Territory, have benefited from having the capital of the country in these states. So if we want to have regional government, this is what I suppose, let us also move the Federal Capital Territory along with the seat of the president at every point in time. So you say, well, in this region, power is going to stay for the next 5 to 15 years. Okay, so that's fine. So let's move our Federal Capital Territory there. That's one option. Another option is to have a federal capital territory so that there are states in all of these regions where also they have a semblance of what the federal governance of character is. Now, this will show to you that is the intent. And those against my proposition will say it will cost so much money, but it will advance development in all of those regions as well. By some fear, everybody moved to Abuja, and today Abuja is most of infrastructure, if not the hub of infrastructure in the whole country. Lagos has natural resources granted, but the essence of everyone moving to Lagos has never changed, which was because it was a federal capital territory at some point. So if we do that for states in those regions, that is what we can even call a proper rotational presidency or a proper, even equitable development all over the nation. Lagos enjoys natural resources, but it does not mean that Lagos must be isolated from the rest of Nigeria, because to whom much is given, much is expected. Lagos has been the beneficiary of patronage from every part of the nation, and that should not be exclusive to Lagos alone. So there's absolutely no reason for Lagos to be singled out for special status when Kano is there, Kaduna is there, we have Cross River in Calabar, we have Enugu, we have industrial hubs. If we move the Federal Capital Territory to the east, if we dare to move it, do you know how industrialized Nigeria can become? Do you know how we can take over, truthfully, the economy of Africa just by the brains that we have and the natural resources we have? I think that it is inequitable for someone to say that Lagos should be granted special status. Lagos cannot develop in the isolation of every part of Nigeria. And that's why the population is skyrocketing, and it looks like we don't have enough infrastructure because we have concentrated development only on one part of the country. And it's the same thing within Lagos itself, concentrating developments in only a few parts of Lagos. Thank you.
Very interesting, Yinka, and I love that. Maybe someday soon we'll do an analysis, deeper one, when we have enough time to do that. But then, for this morning, especially young people watching us, maybe students of political science and others alike who are studying events around Nigeria since independence, especially since the amalgamation of Northern and Southern Protectorates in 1914. What do you see moving forward that we need to do as a nation to really let people feel, not think, that we're in this nation as one and that it could work for us? Perhaps if we do 1 or 2, 3 things that you think.
It's interesting. I've been thinking about that. I love my president, and I'm surprised that I can say that I love my president. But it's what it is. He's making bold decisions, but in the wrong way. And so we must praise his courage. But the president needs to reach out to Nigerians and reach out in practical terms. It is done doing politics. We've done politics. Now you're in office. The power has been grabbed for whichever way it's been done, and you've run away with it. You're in office. We have a president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Reach out to Nigerians constructively. The president is still moving out the policies in a political way. The president does not have any established social contract with Nigerians as of today. They should remove that from number 8 of what they think they've achieved in the first year in office. No, the country is still very polarized, so that Labour is challenging government with respect to minimum wage. All Labour is doing is trying to say, you know what, you can't govern successfully without listening to us. It's not practicable to move minimum wage there, but it's practicable to cut costs. It's practicable for the president to make the right appointments. It's practicable for the government to consider policies and the impact of policies before they are introduced. Enough of the military-style introduction of policies that the president is doing. We salute his courage, but the president, one thing that he needs to do right now is to curry the favor of Nigerians, is to bring Nigerians, the plight of Nigerians to his bosom, away from his political appointees. He should probably even tour the states, and in touring those states, consider what practical suffering we are going through and being able to make practicable promises. We can't remove subsidy, we can't devalue the naira without any impact of industrialization at the moment, or putting some fillip in the economy at the grassroots, at our SMEs. That's what we need to do. The president needs to identify the short-term wins. Can we strengthen agricultural practices practically? How many tractors do we require? The fertilizer that we need, which companies are going to drive it, what are our short-term gains? The president requires to establish a social contract with Nigerians as a matter of urgent national priority.
In the midst of all of these conversations about the style of government and politics and all whatnot, what will be your counsel in terms of citizen participation?
So we keep putting a lot of pressure on citizens' participation. Well, I'm sorry, I hold almost the contrary opinion. Even outside of Nigeria, in Western world, in the United Kingdom, we have apathy. We keep thinking that citizens would have to contest for offices before they participate in politics. No, it's not correct. Even those in the third sector, the non-governmental organizations, it's a level of participation. What we don't need to do is to empower citizens themselves. I'm here trying to sacrifice time. You are sacrificing time on this national discourse. There are people who did not go to bed having ate last night. How dare you tell them to say they should go and look for a member of the House of Rep who is in Abuja? What capacity do they have already? It takes to have humane leaders, first of all. So for those of us who are able to lead those protests against the plight of the common man, we need to do so. Let's not tell these people whose children have not paid school fees. They are looking for WAEC fees. Some of them are plagued by diseases that they will never be able to raise monies to cure. We are telling them to get involved in governance beyond the level they are. We are saying these people are victims of state capture, where poverty has been politicized and where politics itself has been enthroned and entrenched in poverty, so much so that these people can never consider who they are. Represents them at the House of Assembly. What do they care? They are thinking about the boss fight. So can we, those in office, can we appeal to their conscience as of today and say, consider the longevity of Nigeria? We are no longer a force to reckon with in Africa. Let's not deceive ourselves. The new Africa that is rising is with those military boys. They are the ones who are negotiating with Russia and telling France to stay away. Nobody is listening to Nigeria. So it's important for us to develop Africa organically from ground up. Those in political office need to let Nigerians breathe, like they said. Consider what can we do around us, and then we can use that to develop our nation.
All right, we'll be speaking with Oluyinka Oyeniyi, founder of the Olu of Lagos Foundation, and we're speaking on the possibility of Nigeria going back to regional governments if the bill that's being said to be before the National Assembly becomes the order of the day. Once again, thank you so much, Oluyinka, for your time and submissions on the show today.